A cheaper quote can have hidden consequences. Let's look at an example here in Georgia and weigh the trade-offs, right? This particular HVAC company in Georgia, employee found out he had a $4,100 bill just after his boss approved the new plan. The monthly payment went down, but the deductible went up. And nobody really ran that number for a person who's making $44,000 a year with a family on the plan. And that's the conversation I want to walk through today. What was on the quote? What was in the conversation, and what should have been asked before anyone signed. So let's take a look at this scenario here. 47 employees, HVAC business in Georgia. We've got a renewal that went up 10%. So this owner opted for a new payment that was lower, but the deductible went from $1,500 to $4,500 for an increase of $3,000. Now, the owner sees the numbers. He knows that when the deductible goes up, the consequence of the payment going down, and he took the cheaper monthly payment, and that's understandable. But here's a question that wasn't maybe introduced. What does the $4,500 mean for a family on the plan? Let's make it real. So let's say we got an employee whose name is Marcus, right? And he's been with the company for 9 years, and he's got, a wife and 2 kids. He makes about $44,000 a year, and he carries that family for health insurance. So Marcus, under the old plan, had a $1,500 deductible for the family. Under this new plan, it's $4,500, a $3,000 difference. And for someone making $44,000 a year, that's about 6 weeks of take-home pay before the major medical starts to help with anything. Now, Marcus probably doesn't realize the weight of this yet, right? He sees his payment down, he's happy with that too. But when he goes to use the plan, or his family does, and they find out, and he's going to be upset. He's going to tell his friends and fellow coworkers. It likely gets back to the owner. And here's what the owner's going to feel in that moment. Not, did I pick the right quote on the spreadsheet? It's something that stings a lot more. It's, did I make the right call for my people? And so before I'd point the owner to any decision like this, I'd want to know 3 things when we were looking at this together before we made that commitment, right? 1, what does your workforce actually earn? Right? What's the average salary? Because $4,500 hits a lot different for a $44,000 employee than a $90,000 employee, right? Second is, how many families are being covered on the coverage currently? Because the exposure doesn't hit everyone equally, right? Single people aren't feeling this. And then next, what did the monthly payment go down to, right? Because if there's a good gap between the payments, we may have some room to fill that gap a little bit for the employees on the deductible. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. So here are the 3 options I want us to take a look at, right? We've got 3 pathways we can really go down as we think through it here. Number 1 is keep that lower monthly payment option that just came through. Yes, it provides budget relief for the employer. Marcus and his buddies just have to eat the additional risk at $4,500 now, a $3,000 increase. B is keep the current plan. Yeah, the current plan went up 10%, but it has a $1,500 deductible, and that's better for the workforce. In this case, the employer has to eat the costs, right? And that's not necessarily advantageous. So we look at C. Now, here is what's interesting about C is the monthly payment went down, and in this case, it went down by $160 per employee. Well, that's room to work with. So a portion of that $160 could pay for a group gap plan, one that coordinates directly with the major medical so that it covers most of that $4,500. Now here's how that looks. The main plan has a $4,500 deductible, right? But the gap covers $4,000 of that, which leaves the employee only $500 as their effective deductible. So the employer took a cheaper plan, but we used part of that savings to fund the extra gap coverage to protect the workforce. And that option C started with one question at renewal that a lot of folks never ask, and as what did the payment actually drop to, and what could we do with that? This actually created a win-win, both a lower monthly payment for the employer group and all its employees, and a lower overall deductible than what they had to begin with. It was $1,500 to start with last year, and now it's $500. Sometimes this is what we need to do, is we just need to work through these questions to get to a smarter solution. And if it's coming time for your renewal and you want me to go through that sort of evaluation with you, then reach out to me and I'll be happy to help you.